Have you ever had one of those days where you just feel, totally fundamentally exhausted by the modern world?
Oh, constantly.
Right. And I don't mean just needing a nap. I mean that deep, bone-weary feeling like you're stuck playing this massive, endlessly complicated game where, everyone else is secretly using cheat codes.
Yeah, exactly.
It's that creeping suspicion that words are totally empty, that fairness is just like a myth we tell children. And you are constantly burning energy just trying to decode what people actually want from you.
It's exhausting.
It really is. So if you are nodding your head right now or, maybe just sighing heavily in your car, you are going to want to stick around for this deep dive.
Yeah, because it is a very specific, modern type of exhaustion. And it's exactly the phenomenon we are unpacking today. We've got this incredibly profound set of documents in front of us.
Really dense stuff, but so good.
Super dense, yeah. The core text is called Eirunomics,
Right.
the Brehon Path to Restorative Mutuality. And it's paired with an accompanying text that essentially takes ancient Irish wisdom, represented by the mythological figure of Eiru, and throws it right into the ring against Machiavellian political theory.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because reading through these sources, it honestly feels like a survival manual for a manipulative world.
It really does.
The text introduces this overarching concept called the archonic condition. And the best way I can conceptualize it is like it's an invisible weather system.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, but it's not just rain, right? It's this constant low-pressure atmospheric system of domination and fear and leverage. We've all been born into this climate, so we just sort of assume it's normal to constantly feel like we're navigating a storm of ulterior motives.
I really like that weather analogy, honestly. But if we follow it through, the text argues this climate doesn't just happen by accident. The archonic condition actively generates fog to hide predators. It's a social climate that actively rewards manipulation over honor. And, it completely shapes human behavior to survive within it.
It forces you to adapt to the fog.
Yeah.
And actually, before we get into the actual mechanics of that fog, I do want to make a really quick note for you listening.
Yeah, good point.
Because the author of today's text takes some massive, highly politically charged swings. Like they frame a lot of modern institutions, specifically the European Union, Washington, and various Irish governments since the foundation of the state in 1922 as being prime examples of this corrupt, archonic system.
They definitely don't hold back.
No, they do not. And whether you agree with their politics or not, and to be absolutely clear here, we are just here to impartially analyze the philosophy. We're not picking sides or endorsing these specific political views at all. But their diagnosis of the psychology behind these systems is just absolutely fascinating.
It is, because to really understand the cure the text offers, which it calls Eirunomics, we first have to thoroughly examine the sickness it diagnoses.
Right, the diagnosis.
Exactly. The text asserts that over the long arc of history, and specifically for the Gael since the arrival of St. Patrick in 432 AD.
When the living law kind of started getting replaced, right?
Yeah, replaced by institutional dogma, and accelerating really heavily since 1922. It argues humans haven't just been stunted. We have become, in the author's words, overdeveloped in the wrong direction.
Overdeveloped in the wrong direction. That is such a striking phrase. It implies we've gotten really, really good at the exact wrong things.
What's fascinating here is how the text frames our natural gifts, our ability to bond, to recognize patterns, to tell stories. They've all been hijacked.
Wow.
Instead of using them to build trust, we use them to build leverage. The text basically strips away the nursery rhyme we were all taught growing up. You know the one, right?
The one about how honesty is always rewarded, the good guy always wins, hard work is naturally noticed.
Exactly. The fairy tale we tell kids so they behave in school.
Right, yeah.
But the text argues that in our current archonic climate, living blindly by that nursery rhyme is physically and emotionally dangerous.
Goodness without structure just gets exhausted.
It burns out.
Completely. Innocence without discernment doesn't make you a saint. It just makes you pray.
Okay, wait. I have to push back here.
Yeah.
Because when I first read that section, my immediate reaction was, wow, this is unbelievably dark.
It can definitely read that way at first glance.
Yeah, like, isn't this just a deeply cynical, totally Machiavellian view of humanity? Are humans really just inherently calculating and bad? It felt like I was reading a manual for paranoia.
And that is the exact trap the text warns against. The Machiavellian view actually is the archonic view.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, the text agrees with Machiavelli's diagnosis of how power operates right now in the current system, but it violently rejects his prescription.
Okay, so it's saying the sickness is real, but
But the sickness is not the default law of creation. It's a localized infection. The goal isn't to study this so you can become, like, a better archon and beat the manipulators at their own dirty game.
right, the goal is to become what the text calls a brehon.
A brehon, which historically in Ireland, that was a judge, right? Like a truth seeker who upheld the living law of the community.
Precisely. The brehon path is about transmuting these toxic conditions. The text identifies several core illusions or spells that basically maintain this archonic weather system.
The fog.
Yes, the fog. If we look at how weather relies on fog, the archon relies on the illusion of words. The first illusion they cast, which the text calls fi-ar, is the unspoken reality that people simply do not mean what they say.
Oh, the mist machines.
Yes.
The text describes these empty words as glamour, like a magical illusion used to just delay consequences.
Just pushing the problem down the road.
Right, someone makes this grand, beautiful promise to buy peace in the moment, but it's just smoke. They keep you hypnotized by their mouth so you don't look at their hand.
That's exactly it. And if that's the spell, the Bresson alternative is pattern witnessing.
Pattern witnessing.
Yeah, instead of trusting the glamour of empty words, a brehon prioritizes the pattern before the promise. Speech has to be answerable to lived evidence.
So, practically speaking, if I can't trust what someone promises, my only logical defense is to start tracking their actual behavior over time.
Right.
The text suggests keeping a pattern ledger. And I love this because it's not about being, vindictive or petty.
No, not at all.
It's just a private, objective recording of repetitions. Like, do they call when they say they will? Does their declared value actually manifest in their time or their labor? Because a promise without a pattern is literally just wind.
Exactly, and it restores speech to its proper weight. But if words are just fog, we have to ask, what are they hiding?
Right. What's behind the mist?
Which flows naturally into the second illusion, known as co-IR. The spell here is that everyone is operating from self-interest, but the archonic trick is hiding that self-interest beneath noble costumes.
Oh.
It's the help that later becomes a chain, the kindness that, as the text brilliantly puts it, silently issues an invoice to your soul.
The silent invoice? Oh my gosh, we have all dealt with this.
Oh, 100%.
It's the colleague who, does you a favor by covering a shift, but then subtly holds it over your head for 2 years. Or the friend who offers advice but gets super offended if you don't take it because their help was actually just about control.
Yeah, it was an extraction.
It is so exhausting trying to decode the hidden motive.
Because you're constantly bracing for that hidden cost. You never know when the bill is coming due. The Brehon alternative cuts right through this. It's called explicit mutuality.
I love this concept.
A Brehon brings interest directly into the daylight. The practice here is to name the mutuality before you commit to anything.
Think about how refreshing that is in the real world when someone just openly admits what they want.
It saves so much energy.
It does. No noble pretense. Just, hey, I need this specific thing. Can you do that for me? And in return, I can offer this.
It's liberating.
Yeah.
You sit down and explicitly state, here is what I give, here is what I receive, and here is what I am risking. You literally dismantle the silent invoice before it can even be printed.
Wow. But once you strip away those fake words and hidden motives, you immediately run into a much bigger problem. You expose how society actually distributes its rewards.
Yeah, the structural side of things.
Which brings us to the third spell, ENCH. And honestly, this one hurts. It's the painful recognition that fairness is a complete lie.
The grief around this realization is profound in the text.
Yeah.
We are taught to believe that the system acts like this wise, benevolent elder who will eventually, notice our diligent, quiet excellence.
Just keep your head down and work hard.
But the archonic system doesn't reward diligence. It rewards leverage. It rewards proximity to power, visibility, and just sheer ruthlessness.
Right. The most qualified person gets passed over while the loudest, most well-connected person just fails upward constantly. So how does the Brehon path actually fix that? I mean, we can't just throw our hands up, and we definitely shouldn't all become ruthless self-promoters.
No, definitely not. The Brehon alternative is to recognize that fairness isn't an automatic weather condition. It doesn't just fall from the sky. It has to be deliberately built.
Okay.
The text introduces the concept of honor values. The idea is that a community must actively mint its own currency of recognition, which it calls gra, which translates to love or true recognition. And they do this by keeping an honor values register.
Wait, so how does it actually work? Are we talking about a literal physical ledger book?
I mean, it can be formal, but it's really more about a shared communal practice. It's about witnessing the invisible contributions that the market completely ignores.
Oh, like care work.
Yes, the market values profit and leverage. An honor values register actively records care work, memory keeping, craftsmanship, and the emotional labor of holding space for others.
So instead of waiting for a corrupt system to validate you, the community actively witnesses your value. That totally shifts the power dynamic.
It does.
But of course, the people with leverage don't want to give up their power. They rig the rules. And that brings up the fourth spell, duchas, the illusion that the law is blind.
Right.
The text argues we live under a brutal two-tier law. For the ordinary weak person, a rule is a solid brick wall. But for the powerful person, it's just a gate with a hidden latch.
We see this constantly, don't we?
All the time.
Ordinary people are trained from birth to ask permission and fear punishment. Powerful people are trained to negotiate, delay, hire experts, and just exploit loopholes.
It's exactly like corporate VIP loopholes. If an average person messes up their taxes, their bank account is frozen immediately.
Right, devastating consequences.
But a massive corporation evades millions, and it gets tied up in a tribunal for a decade until the fine is like a fraction of a percent of their quarterly profit.
Exactly.
But here's what I really want to know. How does a regular person enforce fairness against a massive entity? The text mentions steward-bound clauses as the Brehon fix, but how do we actually do that when they have all the money and the lawyers?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, that is the crucial mechanical question. In Eironomics, a steward-bound clause flips the burden of proof.
Oh.
The living law dictates that the more resources, money, data, or symbolic authority you hold, the higher your duty of transparency and repair.
But you're right, they won't volunteer for that.
No, they won't. The way a Brehon community enforces it is by leveraging that gra we just talked about. You withhold the social license to operate.
Oh, I see.
A community refuses to engage, to provide labor, or to offer trust unless the powerful entity submits to transparent binding clauses first. You don't get greater exemptions because you are powerful. You get greater burdens of proof.
Okay, that makes sense. You build a parallel economy of trust. But structural protections like steward-bound clauses against a corporation, they only go so far if the people physically sitting in your living room are secretly playing the archonic game.
This is a huge point.
Right. Fixing society's rules doesn't protect you from a toxic friend.
Exactly. The focus has to narrow from the boardroom down to the intimate sphere. And this is where the text introduces the fifth spell, KRDE.
Yeah, this one was heavy.
It's a chilling reality.
Yeah.
Enemies pretend to be friends. The text points out that true betrayal doesn't come from your obvious adversaries. It comes from people who get close enough to gather your secrets. Trust is used as a doorway for harm through fast intimacy.
Fast intimacy, that is such a massive modern problem.
It's everywhere.
It's like, trauma dumping on a first date or oversharing with a new coworker because they seem warm, and we mistakenly confuse that warmth with actual tested loyalty.
Warmth is an emotion. Kindred is a structure.
Oh, that's good.
The Brehon alternative here is tested kindred, which is built slowly through dialogue circles. The text is very clear on this. Trust is not a default setting to be given away freely. It must be earned and rigorously tested.
Tested how, exactly?
Tested by cost, by confidentiality, and crucially, by the ability to repair after a disappointment. Like, can this person hear the word no without turning cold and punishing you?
Right, how do they handle boundaries?
Exactly. Graded access is vital. You don't hand someone the keys to your inner emotional life just because you had one good conversation.
Which honestly feels like the perfect defense against the sixth spell, Tierman. The text admits this is its harshest teaching. The spell is, weakness invites attack.
It's a tough pill to swallow.
I really struggled with this one at first, because in the modern world, we are constantly told to be vulnerable. It's a huge buzzword in corporate leadership and self-help, Open up, share your trauma, bring your whole self to work, be authentic.
Yeah.
But this text aggressively warns that exposing vulnerability without structural protection just creates ammunition for an archon.
It is harsh, but think about the mechanism of it. A world that demands you perform your vulnerability but refuses to protect you when you are vulnerable is, as the text calls it, obscene.
Obscene.
Wow. If you reveal your deepest fears to someone who hasn't passed the tests of kindred, they won't remember your pain with compassion. They log it as strategic leverage for a future argument.
Wow. That is a really brutal reality to accept. But it completely makes sense.
It does.
Here's where it gets really interesting to me, though. Aeronomics doesn't agree with Machiavelli's advice here. It doesn't say just harden your heart, hide your feelings, and act tough. It actually says vulnerability is sacred material.
Yes, that's a vital distinction.
The alternative it offers is sanctuary and care law.
Right, so you don't suppress your weakness, you just restrict access to it. You only reveal it within care covenants.
Care covenants.
These are explicitly protected relationships where consent, confidentiality, and exact routes of repair are defined beforehand. The community acts as a lawful container. You never perform your wounds for people who haven't earned the right to hold the bowl.
Let me just take a beat to process all of this, because if we look at everything we've covered, we've learned to guard our words by tracking behavior.
Right.
We've exposed hidden motives by naming mutuality. We're building our own honor values instead of begging for fairness. We're binding the powerful with living law. We're testing our friendships. And we are fiercely protecting our vulnerability and care covenants.
It's a comprehensive system.
It is. You would think after doing all of that heavy lifting, we are totally safe. We can just step off the board and relax.
But the board keeps moving.
Of course it does.
And this brings us to the final trap, spell number 7, GORT. The illusion is the belief that you can simply opt out. The spell states, you are in a game whether you play or not.
This is the one that destroys good people, the people who proudly say, I don't play office politics. I'm just going to keep my head down, be authentic, and do my job.
And the text says that refusing strategy doesn't make you pure. It just makes you a pawn.
Ouch.
The field of power continues to move around you. Resources flow, narratives form, and if you blindly refuse to see the board, you will be outmaneuvered, exploited, or completely erased by those who do see it.
So the Machiavellian advice would be to accept the dirty game and play it better than everyone else, right? Become the apex predator.
Exactly.
But Aeronomics passionately refuses to enthrone this extractive game. The Brehon alternative isn't to become a better Archon. The answer is to convene the Brehon field. You don't play their game, you co-create an entirely new one.
This raises an important question, though. How do we practically convene a Brehon field without just forming some isolated, naive commune that falls apart in a month?
Right, it can't just be a drum circle that gets bulldozed by a corporation a week later. It needs actual teeth.
Exactly. It needs structure. The text explains that convening the Brehon field involves organizing life around extraction-free principles using 3 interconnected mechanisms. First is Shanchas, which translates to living memory and lawful remembrance.
So not just reading history books.
No, living memory. It means the community actively remembers who actually shows up, who repairs harm, and who exploits. The ledger is shared.
Okay, that's powerful.
Second is cumin, which means an association of shared practice. You don't just talk about these values, you practice them together.
Like practically on the ground.
Right. This could look like a mutual aid network, a cooperative business model, or just a neighborhood that shares resources based on explicit mutuality rather than hidden invoices.
You actually build the infrastructure of trust.
Exactly. And the third piece is tuathash, which is active, responsible participation. You cannot be a passive consumer in a Brehon field.
You have to step up.
You are a co-creator of the law. You enforce the steward-bound clauses by standing together.
So what does this all mean when we zoom all the way out? The purpose of looking at all these dark, Machiavellian, archonic spells isn't to become cynical or cruel or paranoid.
No, that's the opposite of the goal.
The ultimate goal, in the brilliant words of the text, is to become impossible to enchant by falsehood.
That is the core thesis of Aeronomics right there. You become awake, you become discerning, so that the domination of the archonic weather system cannot reproduce itself through you. You stop feeding the fog.
Which brings me back to you, listening to this right now. It is incredibly validating to know that it is absolutely okay to feel exhausted by a world of constant performance and hidden motives.
Your exhaustion is actually a very sane response.
Exactly. Your exhaustion isn't a personal failure. It is a sign that your body and mind are accurately sensing the sickness of the system. But this Brehon path offers a really profound way forward.
It's very hopeful, ultimately.
It is. It shows us how to be awake and fiercely discerning without hardening our hearts into stone. It's about building what the text calls a cosmunity, a space where your vulnerability is legally protected, where a person's speech is absolutely bound to their actions, and where you no longer have to guess what things cost.
It is a massive paradigm shift. You are moving from surviving by cold calculation to thriving by covenant.
Beautifully said.
But throughout this entire deep dive, we've been looking outward. We've been looking at how to identify and protect ourselves from the archonic behavior of other people, of massive institutions, of the weather system itself.
Right, the external threat.
But if the ultimate goal of the Brehon path is to become impossible to enchant by falsehood, well, what happens when you turn that pattern ledger inward?
Oh, wow.
Think about this as you go about your week. If you tracked your own promises against your own actions for the next 30 days, if you audited your own hidden motives and silent invoices, would you find a Brehon faithfully honoring their word?
That is quite the question.
Or would you find an Archon successfully enchanting yourself with your own good intentions?